You hoped I'd break, but I just grew stronger.
I was married to Rachel for 8 years. In the beginning, life was easy. We didn't have much, but we were close. She was smart, driven, and moving fast in her career. She eventually became the CFO at Technova, a big tech company in Seattle. I worked there too, as a systems architect. But as Rachel climbed higher, everything changed. Her job took over. Nights were spent on her laptop and weekends were filled with work calls. Even dinner turned into meetings about numbers and board reports. We stopped being a couple. We were just roommates, sharing bills. We used to keep one tradition: Tuesday night dinners at our favorite Italian place. It was the one time each week we promised to focus on each other. Then one Tuesday, I didn't show. That day at work, I got an email saying my job transfer to Juneau, Alaska had been approved. I was shocked. The start date was just a month away. I read the email over and over, sure it was a mistake. I called HR. A woman named Linda picked up. She said someone logged into my work account the previous Thursday and submitted the transfer request. It had gone through all approvals. Juneau had been waiting for someone with my skills. They were excited. But I didn't request anything. I told her I was in a meeting with my whole team at that time. She said the system showed a valid login using my credentials. Then she added that backing out would be almost impossible, and refusing could cost me my job. I hung up, shaken. It didn't seem like a tech glitch. Maybe I was hacked. Then it hit me. Rachel, as CFO, had admin access to everything. She could log in as anyone. But why would she do that to me? Instead of going to dinner, I called her and told her to come home. She sounded worried. When she walked in, she looked every bit the polished executive. Suit on, glass of wine in hand. I showed her the email. She looked puzzled and asked if someone had hacked my account. I asked if she could access employee records. Her face went blank. Then she asked if I really thought she would send her own husband to Alaska without saying a word. I wasn't trying to accuse her, but the thought was there. She turned to the window and said if she wanted me gone, she'd tell me to my face. That was true. Rachel never played games. She was always blunt. Her younger sister, Kelsey, had been staying with us for a while. She was 26, fresh out of grad school, doing a marketing internship at Technova, thanks to Rachel pulling strings. When Rachel asked if she could stay with us, I said yes. That's what you do for family. But Kelsey rubbed me the wrong way. Not outright rude, just smug. She'd roll her eyes at things I said, call me uptight, and crack jokes that weren't funny. Rachel brushed it off, saying, "She's just young." The next day I went to HR in person. Linda showed me the logs. Everything looked normal. The login happened Thursday at 2:47 p.m. from inside the building. Juneau even pushed up the timeline. They needed me in 3 weeks. I asked if I could say no. She said yes, but I'd probably be fired. I left feeling stuck. No one cared what really happened, just what the system showed. Back at my desk, I found a sticky note. Heard about Alaska, LOL, guess someone doesn't like you. No name, but I had a gut feeling. That night while I was cooking, Kelsey walked in. Rachel was still at work. Kelsey grabbed a yogurt and said she heard I was headed to Alaska. She joked the winters were rough. I said there had been a mistake. I wasn't going. She smiled and said, maybe starting fresh wasn't a bad thing. Then she added, everyone knows you and Rachel haven't been happy for a long time. You're just pretending. Then she walked out, like she hadn't just dropped a bomb. I started digging. I checked the system logs again. Sure enough, log in at 2:47 p.m. Thursday. It was from an internal IP in the marketing department, Kelsey's department. I remembered. Weeks ago, Kelsey borrowed my laptop. Hers was updating. I gave it to her without logging out. She could have seen my password. Maybe even took a picture. Kelsey was smart. Too smart. I took screenshots of everything. But now what? I had no proof. Rachel wouldn't believe me without solid evidence, and HR wouldn't act on a guess. The next few days were rough. My boss, Dan, felt bad but said nothing could be done. The paperwork was official and Juneau was counting on me. At home, Kelsey kept making comments about the cold, how I'd have time to reflect, how I didn't belong. Rachel either didn't notice or didn't want to. One night, I brought it up. I told Rachel it was strange all this happened while Kelsey was staying with us, using my laptop and working in the department tied to the request. Rachel's expression hardened. She said if I was blaming Kelsey, I'd better have proof. She called her sister hardworking and said she wasn't some soap opera villain. I was tired of defending myself, tired of being told I was imagining things, tired of feeling like a stranger in my own home. One Saturday, I was in the garage, cleaning and trying to clear my head. Behind a shelf where Kelsey had stored some things, I found a small notebook. I was about to put it aside, until I noticed my name faintly showing through the cover. Curious, I opened it. The first few pages were normal, notes, lists, random spending. But halfway through, it took a turn. On one page, in big bold letters, Kelsey had written, "Plan to remove Daniel," and underlined it twice. Underneath, she wrote her steps. The goal? Get me out of Rachel's life. The plan? Transfer me to Alaska. Far, cold, and lonely, so I wouldn't come back. Step 1. Get my login info. Done. Borrowing the laptop worked. Step 2. Send the request during work hours. Done. Thursday, 2:47 p.m. Admire. Wait for approval. Done. Faster than I thought. Crimson. Let it all play out. In another ink color, she wrote, Reflex, D thinks something's off, but can't prove it. Good. Let him worry. Rachel never picks him over me. Never has. Rinny, I stood there, shaking. This wasn't some joke. It was a planned move to ruin my job and my life. The next page explained why. She thought Rachel deserved someone better, someone more exciting, not boring or stuck. Rachel was a top exec. Me? Just plain. She believed once I was gone, Rachel would finally see it and thank her. If Rachel got mad, she'd get over it. Sisters before guys, she wrote, adding a smiley face. I snapped photos of every page from different angles to be sure they were clear. Then I put the notebook back where I found it. I should have gone to them right then, but I was too worn down, tired of proving I wasn't crazy, tired of not being heard. That night, I walked into Rachel's office. She was working, like always. I told her I found Kelsey's notebook in the garage. She barely looked up. I said it spelled out a full plan to send me to Alaska. Kelsey even gave it a name, Operation Daniel Removal. Restrained looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I told her I had photos, that Kelsey wrote down how she got my password, when she sent the request, and why. Because she thought Rachel deserved better. Rachel's voice turned cold. She said it was nuts to think her sister would do that maybe I imagined it. I said no, it wasn't fake. I had proof. Her sister's words, in her own writing. Rachel stood, crossed her arms, and said handwriting could be faked. I asked if she was serious. She said, I just wanted to blame Kelsey, that I never liked her, and now I was pushing her out. I showed her the photos. They were clear, every word easy to read. She stared at them, then said the one thing that crushed me. Anyone could have written this. Maybe you did it to set her up. Stabilized. That's when I got it. I finally saw the truth. Rachel didn't trust me. After 8 years, she thought I'd fake evidence. She stood by her sister, not me. I left the room, grabbed my keys, and drove for hours. I needed time to think. And by morning, I had. I was done, not just with the fight, but the whole marriage. If she couldn't believe me when I showed her the truth, what was left? We weren't really married. We were just living under the same roof, and I didn't matter anymore. When I got home, Rachel was still asleep. I opened my laptop and took another look at the Alaska offer. This time, I saw it clearly. It was a real chance. Lead systems architect, working on real projects like emergency response and green tech. Better pay, smaller team, more freedom. I've been so focused on the betrayal, I missed the gift in it. This wasn't punishment. It was my exit. So I chose it. I accepted the transfer. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. I was leaving a hollow marriage, a place where I wasn't heard, a partner who picked her sister over me. Over the next few weeks, I built my file, saved every photo, put the pieces together, system logs from Kelsey's department, a list of her weird comments. I even wrote down what the marriage had been like, silent meals, lonely weekends, one-way talks, just to clear my head, not for court. The night before I left, we sat down for dinner, something rare. Rachel ordered food. Kelsey talked about work. When there was a break, I spoke. I said I was flying to Alaska the next day. They stared at me. I said I had proof Kelsey sent the request, her notes, her writing, the login trail, and her reason. And Rachel didn't believe me. Worse, she blamed me. Rachel tried to say something, but I kept going. I said I'd shown her the truth, and she still stood by Kelsey. I turned to Kelsey and told her I knew what she'd done. And so did Rachel, deep down. For once, Kelsey didn't smirk. She looked pale. Her voice shook when she denied it. I repeated the words from her notebook, that I was in the way and Rachel deserved better and would thank her one day. Kelsey went quiet. Rachel stood up and told me to stop. I said I wasn't done. I told them I was leaving, not because I had no choice, but because I wanted more. I was walking away from a marriage where I had no say. Rachel said I was overreacting, but I saw fear in her eyes. I asked her one last thing. When was the last time you chose me? When did we come first? She didn't answer. I told them I'd already filed for divorce. The papers would arrive next week. I didn't want much. She could keep the house, her job, and her sister. I'd keep my self-respect. I looked at Kelsey and told her the truth. I'd already sent everything. The notebook, login logs, all of it. To HR, legal, and Rachel's boss. Not to get back at her, but because actions have results. Kelsey burst into tears, saying it was all just a joke. I told her no, it wasn't a prank. Planning this for weeks? Stealing my login? Sending in fake job requests? That's not a joke. That's fraud. That's sabotage. Rachel turned to her, serious now, and asked if it was true. Kelsey froze. Rachel said she had seen the notebook pictures. Marcus had shown them to her. Kelsey said, "But you said you didn't believe them." Rachel shook her head and said that's not what she meant. She said I couldn't prove who wrote them. But the writing? She knew it well. She'd seen Kelsey's handwriting all her life. I asked Rachel if she had known deep down. She said she didn't want it to be true. I said, but it was. She stayed quiet. That said enough. I went upstairs to pack. Neither of them followed. That night, no one knocked. The next morning, Rachel stood outside the door. She didn't speak. She didn't come in. She just walked away. That moment said it all. Two people, one door between them, and no one willing to open it. I grabbed a cab and caught the first flight out. While I sat at the gate, my phone buzzed again and again. Rachel had texted nonstop, saying she was sorry, begging me not to go, telling me Kelsey had confessed. She said we couldn't just toss away 8 years. I sent one reply. I told her she already knew the truth but still picked her sister. That told me everything I needed to know. She said she was scared. She didn't want to think her sister could do something that mean. I said I didn't want to think my wife could be so disloyal. But it happened. She asked how to fix it. I told her she couldn't. Some things break for good. Then, I shut off my phone and got on the plane. A new life begins. The flight to Juneau felt long. I sat by the window, thinking about what life would be now. No wife, no drama, no cold house filled with old hurt. Just me, work, and the wild land ahead. As we landed, I saw snow-covered mountains, huge and untouched. The woman next to me asked if it was my first time in Alaska. I said yes. She asked if I was here for work or fun. I paused, then said, "A new beginning." She smiled and said, "Alaska's perfect for that. The open space makes your problems seem small." I hoped she was right. Technova's Juneau office was simple. About 50 people, not 500 like Seattle. Smaller building, quiet halls, but with a view that made you stop and stare. On day one, the regional manager, Tom Harrison, welcomed me kindly. He said they'd been waiting for me. My past work in the Pacific Northwest had impressed them. I'd be leading a big climate tech project. For the first time in weeks, I felt steady. No one asked why I moved. No stares, no whispers. Just people happy I was there. I rented a small place downtown. Nothing fancy, but it had a mountain view. That first night, I unpacked slow and watched the sun dip behind snowy peaks. The sky lit up in ways I'd never seen in Seattle. I hadn't turned my phone back on yet. I wasn't ready to face what waited there. I poured a drink, sat by the window, and quietly said, "Here's to new beginnings." The final goodbye. Silenced. 3 days later, I turned my phone on. That's when I saw the divorce papers had been sent. 47 missed calls from Rachel. 23 texts, a bunch of unknown numbers, too. I scrolled through the messages with no emotion. Rachel had written a lot. Said Kelsey had come clean, that she wanted to talk, that she still loved me. She begged to fix things. Kelsey had written too. Sorry, guilty. Said she lost her internship. Swore she didn't mean to ruin our marriage, just wanted me out of Rachel's life. I replied to Rachel. I told her I saw the messages and thanked her for the apology. But it didn't change anything. The divorce would go through. I wished her well, but I didn't want to be part of her life anymore. I asked her not to reach out again. Then I hit send before I could second-guess myself. To Kelsey, I said nothing. Minutes later, Rachel called. I didn't answer. She called again and again. I finally picked up. She was crying hard. Said she was losing her mind. Said we needed to talk. I told her we should have had this talk years ago, when she put her job before our marriage, when she stopped seeing me as a partner, when she let her sister live with us without asking me first. But we didn't talk back then. And now, it was too late. She said it's never too late. Said she still loved me. I told her she never said that when it counted. She said she meant it. Said the house felt empty now. I told her it had always felt that way. She just never saw it, because she was never home. There was silence. Then Rachel finally said I'd been right. She hadn't really been there. Not as a wife. Her career had taken all her focus. When Kelsey moved in, it felt nice to have family close, so she didn't see what was really happening. She didn't notice Kelsey's influence. I told her Kelsey didn't have to change her mind. She only confirmed what Rachel already believed. Kelsey said I wasn't enough, and Rachel agreed. Maybe not fully out loud, but in her heart, she believed it. Rachel denied that. I kept going. I reminded her of the names she used to call me. Safe, plain, too careful. That's not love. That's disappointment. She cried more, said she didn't mean it. She was just frustrated. I said no, she was being honest. She didn't respect me. I was just someone she settled for. She wanted someone to show off. I was someone to hide. She swore that wasn't true. I gave her proof. The way she rushed past introductions. The way she avoided talking about my work. How she looked embarrassed when I didn't keep up with her world. She broke down, said she was sorry. I told her I believed her, but being sorry didn't change the years I felt unseen. It didn't undo the damage. It didn't make me want to return. She asked what she could do. I told her to sign the divorce papers. Let me go. Build the life she wanted, without dragging me along like a safety net. She said I was never just background. I said goodbye and hung up. The next few weeks were a blur of both grief and relief. I mourned our 8 years, the house we made, and the dreams of growing old together. But I could finally breathe again. I threw myself into work, diving deep into the climate project. It was demanding, but it gave back. Tom noticed the change and said I seemed more alive. I didn't bring up the divorce. To everyone at the office, I was just Daniel, an architect from Seattle, starting fresh in Alaska. Weekends, I wandered. I hiked trails, explored icy valleys, and stood where sea met snow-covered cliffs. The views stirred something in me I hadn't felt in years. One night in a small cafe, a woman at the next table smiled and said, I looked at the snow like it was my first time. I laughed and said I was from Seattle. Her name was Emma. She photographed wildlife and lived nearby. We talked for an hour about her work, about why I moved. I told her I was starting over. She said Alaska was full of people doing the same. Then she asked if it was working. I said some of it was. I gave her the short version: broken marriage, betrayal, my choice to leave. She said people here believe the land heals what people break. That stayed with me. We exchanged numbers, just as friends. A few weeks later, Rachel stopped calling. Instead, she mailed a letter, handwritten on soft paper. She said she knew I needed space, but wanted me to hear some things before the divorce became final. Not to change my mind, just because I deserved it. She admitted I was right. She hadn't really seen me or appreciated me. She'd gotten so focused on success that she forgot the man who'd always stood beside her. When Kelsey said I lacked drive, it hit something inside her. She already felt that way deep down and hadn't faced it. She needed to believe her sacrifices had meaning. So when I didn't match her pace, she saw me as holding her back. She said when I showed her the notebook, she knew it was Kelsey's writing right away. But admitting it meant facing how badly she'd failed me. So she looked away. She chose Kelsey. She said she didn't blame me for walking. If roles were reversed, she would have done the same. She blamed herself for not fighting to keep me. But maybe, she wrote, if she had loved me the way I needed, I wouldn't have left. She signed the papers, gave me everything I asked for. Kelsey moved out. They weren't speaking anymore. Some wounds, she said, are too deep, even for sisters. Rachel had started therapy. She was learning to slow down. She hoped Alaska gave me peace. She hoped I'd find someone who truly saw me and loved me without needing to change me. She was sorry she hadn't been that person. I read the letter 3 times, folded it, and tucked it away. I didn't cry. I'd already done that. I poured a drink, sat by the window, and let myself feel the quiet end of it all. 3 months into my new life, I got an email from HR. The investigation was over. They confirmed the transfer came from someone on the marketing floor, and it wasn't me. They couldn't give names, but the person no longer worked at Technova. They also said I had the right to take legal action. On top of that, they offered a $50,000 bonus to stay, paid all my moving costs, and fast-tracked me for promotion. I took the bonus. I didn't sue. Kelsey had already lost a lot. Dragging her into court wouldn't fix anything. The next few months brought real change. At work, I thrived. Tom promoted me to lead architect. Outside of work, Emma and I grew close. She introduced me to her world: hikers, nature lovers, people who lived for the outdoors. We explored together, shared campfires, and talked late into the night. It was a life I didn't know I needed. I started therapy too. My therapist said I wasn't just leaving a marriage. I was letting go of the version of me who stayed quiet, who settled, who believed he didn't deserve more. I asked if that was a bad thing. He said no, it was growth, and growth hurts, but it's worth it. 6 months later, the divorce was final. My lawyer said Rachel didn't push back. That evening, I drove up a hill where I could see the whole city. I thought about everything: Rachel, Kelsey, and the man I'd been. I didn't feel joy. I felt calm. Steady calm. During a hike, I told Emma I was thinking about staying in Alaska for good. What started as a place to recover had become something more. It felt like home. She smiled and said Alaska had a way of showing you what really matters. That night, I asked her to dinner, not as a friend, as something more. She smiled and said she'd been hoping I would. We didn't rush. Emma was the opposite of Rachel. She didn't expect me to change. She liked me as I was. Where Rachel saw me as dull, Emma called me steady. Where Rachel thought I lacked drive, Emma called it wisdom. She saw peace in me and said it was something rare. 6 months in, I told her I was falling for her. She said she already had. Almost a year after the divorce, I got another letter from Rachel. She'd heard I was seeing someone new. She said it hurt, not because she was jealous, but because she regretted how things ended. She said I deserved joy, real joy, and she wanted me to know she was getting married too. His name was David. They met in therapy. He was calm, thoughtful, not who she thought she'd end up with, but maybe that made him the right choice. They were taking it slow. She didn't want to repeat old patterns. She said David helped her slow down. Sound familiar? She said she learned the lesson too late for us, but maybe not too late for herself. She wished me well, said maybe one day we could be friends. I read the letter to Emma. I told her I wasn't sad. I was calm. I honestly wanted Rachel to find happiness. We just weren't right for each other. Emma smiled and said, "That's what healing looks like." 9 months into life here, Tom came to my desk and said someone downstairs was asking for me. It was Kelsey. An hour later, I got a call from a number I didn't know. It was her. She said she knew I probably didn't want to see her, and she didn't blame me. But she'd flown all the way to Alaska to say she was sorry. She asked for 10 minutes. Then she'd leave. I thought about ignoring her, but I knew better. Loose ends don't vanish. They wait. I texted her the name of a nearby coffee shop and a time. She'd get 15 minutes. When I walked in, I barely recognized her. She looked smaller, worn down. The confident look she used to wear was gone. Her eyes filled with tears when she saw me. I sat down and told her the clock was ticking. She paused, unsure where to begin. I told her to start with, "Why?" She took a breath and said she loved Rachel, always had. Rachel had been her hero, her anchor. When she moved in, she saw Rachel working nonstop, always drained, and blamed me. I seemed calm while Rachel was falling apart. Kelsey thought I was in the way. She truly believed Rachel would shine brighter without me. I asked if she really thought wrecking my life helped Rachel. She said she convinced herself she was giving Rachel freedom, not causing harm. I told her that sounded like a nice excuse for something cruel. She nodded. She said she'd had months to think about it. Months of therapy, silence from Rachel, and long nights full of guilt. Her voice cracked when she asked if I knew what it felt like to lose your sister. I said I knew what it felt like to lose your wife. She broke down, said she was truly sorry, said she had been proud and selfish, that she destroyed my marriage, my job, my trust. And in the end, she broke her bond with Rachel too. I let her cry. I didn't comfort her. I didn't shame her. I just let her feel it. She said she wasn't asking for forgiveness, just that I know she understood how deeply she hurt me. That she was trying to become a better person. She was in therapy. She was working on herself. I told her I believed she regretted it. I could admit she made a huge mistake, but regret doesn't erase what happened. Her actions had real consequences, and being sorry doesn't undo the damage. She said she knew. She had lost her internship, her name, her future. No one would hire her now. She was back living with her parents, working part-time at a bookstore. No clear path forward. She said she thought she was helping Rachel, but ended up destroying everything. I asked what she wanted from me. She said she hoped that one day, maybe years from now, I'd be able to think of her without hate. That I'd remember she was young, made a horrible choice, but owned up to it and tried to change. I told her I didn't hate her. She looked surprised. I said hate takes energy, and I wasn't giving her that anymore. But I also didn't want her in my life. Not now. Maybe not ever. She'd have to live with that. She nodded. I stood up and said her time was up. She thanked me for listening, for not shutting her out, for treating her with respect. I told her I was trying to be the kind of man who listens, even to those who hurt him. A year into living in Alaska, I realized I was happy. Not fireworks and smiles happy, but quiet, lasting happiness. The kind that sneaks up on you when life finally fits. I noticed it while cooking dinner one night. I was humming to myself. I couldn't remember the last time I'd done that. In Seattle, nights had been silent. Here, in this little home with mountain views, I was humming again. One weekend while hiking with Emma, I told her I was thinking about staying for good. She smiled and said she hoped I would. That night, I wrote a letter to myself. Injecting. Vacation. You stepped off a plane, tired and looking for something more. You found it. The pain didn't vanish, but meaning came too. In real work. In real people. In being fully present. You're not content in the way others use that word against you. You're grounded. Calm. Whole in a way you weren't before. You're ready to open your heart again. Ready to build something new. The mountains showed you strength isn't about avoiding pain. It's about standing tall after it. You're standing now. Be proud. 2 years after I moved, Emma and I got married. It was simple. Just a few close friends, a glacier behind us, the world silent and full of love. We bought a home with a studio for her photography. We adopted a dog named Wolf. Life felt real, soft, full. Rachel and I emailed now and then. She'd married David, a gentle writer she met in therapy. She seemed content. Kelsey had gone back to school for social work. We weren't close. We probably never would be. But the anger had faded. 5 years after the move, I was at a cafe when someone walked over. It was Kelsey. She looked older, quieter. That sharp edge was gone. She asked to sit. We talked. She told me she'd often thought about me, wondered if I was okay. I told her I was. Emma arrived, and I introduced them. Kelsey said she could tell I was happy from the emails I'd sent Rachel. We chatted for a bit, then she left. Emma asked if I was all right. I told her I was, truly. I saw Kelsey and felt no bitterness, just recognition. A flawed person trying to do better. That night after Emma fell asleep, I pulled out the letter I'd written to myself the year I arrived. Then I wrote a new one. Hey Daniel, it's been 6 years since you left Seattle. Look at you now, married to someone who really sees you, doing work that means something, living where you belong. These mountains remind you daily who you are. Solid, rooted, not untouched, but still here. You didn't get revenge. You got something better. You built peace. You didn't let betrayal break you. You used it to begin again. That's real power. That's healing. That's grace. 10 years after stepping on that plane, I stood once more at the overlook where my healing started. But this time, Emma was beside me. And in my arms was our daughter. We named her Aurora, after the northern lights we saw on our first date. She was 2 years old, wide-eyed and full of questions. She pointed at the mountains and said, "They're big." I said, "Very big." Then she asked, "Daddy, are you happy?" I looked at her, this beautiful child who wouldn't exist if I hadn't chosen to leave the life that broke me. And I said, "Yes, sweetheart, Daddy is very happy." That afternoon, while Aurora napped and Emma edited photos, I sat down to write again. This time, it wasn't to myself. It was to anyone who needed it. Anyone who'd been betrayed, felt stuck, or believed it was too late to start over. I wrote about the fake transfer, the choice to walk away, the pain of losing love, the slow path to healing, about Alaska and how the mountains taught me to be strong, about Emma, who saw me clearly, about Aurora, who proved new beginnings are real, about how the quietest revenge is a good life, not because revenge is noble, but because it proves you're unbreakable. You rise, you grow, and you wish them peace as you walk into your own. The book came out the following year. It didn't hit bestseller lists, but it found the right people. People who had been hurt, who were rebuilding, who needed hope. The emails poured in. Messages saying the story gave them courage to leave, to heal, to stop carrying rage. Rachel messaged after reading it. She said she cried, not from pain, but from recognition. She said I told the story with fairness and grace. I didn't paint villains. I just told the truth. And the truth was freeing. Even Kelsey reached out. She said she was working through a codependency program, and that the book helped her understand how much she'd hurt others. But the message I'll never forget came from Lisa in Ohio. She said she'd been where I was, hurt, lost, stuck. My story helped her see that her past had taken enough from her. It didn't get to take her future, too. So she left, moved far away, started fresh. It was hard, but it was hers. She thanked me, not for making happiness look easy, but for showing her it was possible. Now, life is simple and good. I work from home for Technova, managing climate data across 4 states, with the mountains just outside my window. Emma's photography is gaining attention. Aurora is 5, full of joy and wonder. We're expecting a son soon. We're naming him Kai. Rachel and I are friendly now. We talk once a month, and I wish her well. She and David are good for each other. Kelsey became a social worker, helping families rebuild trust. Oddly perfect, maybe. Last week, Aurora asked why I love the mountains so much. I told her it's because they've been through storms, but they're still here, still strong, still beautiful. She smiled and said, "Like you, Daddy." And I said, "Exactly. That little girl exists because I chose growth over resentment. This life exists because I chose to walk away. 10 years ago, I thought I was running, but really, I was heading toward peace, toward purpose, toward home. The betrayal that pushed me was unfair, but it led me here. And this life, I built it. Not with hate, but with truth, with healing, with grace. Outside my window, the mountains glow golden in the fading light. They told me to leave. So I did, and I found everything I needed. That's not revenge. That's not a sad ending. That's just life, and I wouldn't change a thing.